Where's the music? Hi everyone and welcome to Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your host Linz.
And I'm Chris.
How's it going, Chris? Sorry for ruining the intro there.
You're like, where's the mute?
It was kind of like, you know, those hit songs in the 2000s where they would leave those like ad-libby in-booth kind of like little extra things in songs.
Every Limp Bizkit, like Eminem type of thing. Like, yo, Jimmy, hit me with a beat.
Yeah, exactly. How's it going, Chris?
It is going pretty good. It's busy over here, but it's all good. What have I been doing? Recently, I have been doing... What have I been doing? Help me out here, Linz. What have I been doing? You probably know better than me.
How
what
do
I've been doing.
I don't spy on you.
No, but I like you. I like tell you stuff.
Everything you've told me is quite doxable, so I can't bring it up. But I can tell you what I've been doing.
Well, okay then. I have been, I've been concentrating a lot more on me. By which I mean
bath bombs and such.
Yeah, live, laugh, love, and and all of that shit. No. I've been trying to get more of a gym. So on my lunch breaks, I've been going to the gym every day. Good. It's all good. I did send you a message from the gym one day when you were at.
God, you did, yeah.
We're going to record, and I was like, yeah.
Just men panting in the background. I didn't know it was a gym until you told me, Chris. To be fair, yeah, you've been doing all the good stuff. Gym in the break time, bit of Botox after work, things like that.
Botox?
I don't know. It's just when you said you went to the gym on your lunch break, I was like, that's very like Botox and back to the office.
I don't work in an office, thank God.
Remember when you did work in an office, Chris?
No, don't.
Yeah, don't bring it up.
Jesus Christ.
A little question for you, Chris.
Just a little one.
I passed my exams, right? Last time we talked.
Yeah.
Guess my percentage.
Was it 88%?
99%, bitch. Woo! Look at me.
What was the one question that caught you out?
It was like a little autism moment. It was on the it was on the listening test, and it was a guy talking about how he was going to go to a party or have a party, but he also had to buy food. And I was like, do you buy food before you go to the party because you're going to make food? And therefore you've got to buy food, or is it like he just needs food and that's like a separate thing? And then it was on to the next question, so I just put an X in a random box.
They always do that.
Panicked. Yeah, got a bit philosophical.
I've had experience on both sides of both delivering these things and being a test taker, and they're always like, yes, today I am going to go to a party, but before I go to the party, I must make sure I go to the suit shop. But the suit shop is closed. It's in another city. And the party is in this city. What shall I do? I know. Let me allow my aardvark to choose for me about which party I should go to. And it's just like, what?
Seriously? Like, you start really like overthinking it. Like, the answer is he's going to a party. But you're like, but why did he bring up the food? What's the food got to do with anything? Is he bringing the cake? Is he doing a dish? Like, what's going on? And by the time you've thought about it, it's the next question. So I kind of fucked up because I panicked, and that was like question number 1, which is classic me. So, but 99%, come on, that's pretty freaking great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well done. What was like the percentile to pass?
I don't know. Apparently, like, I have no clue. But I know that one of my classmates said if she got one more question wrong, she would have failed. So she lucked out somewhere. But yeah, I don't know what the pass was, but who knows?
Well done. Well done, you.
Yeah. Yay! I've also been painting again, acrylic and watercolor.
Yes, I saw this online. You were painting a slightly creepy woman.
It's not a creepy woman, it's just an old-timey woman. It's from a carte de visite, yeah. I don't know, you were in France. You know those little kind of portraits, those really tiny ones that are like, what do you call it? Business card sized.
Oh, right. Okay. It looks much bigger than that to me.
Well, my painting was bigger, obviously, but the reference picture was small.
Well, my picture was bigger, but I like giant novelty business cards.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, and now it's the summer holiday for me, basically. So I'm just trying to relax, which is why I started painting again, but relaxing is not easy for me.
No.
But I'm trying in the spookiest way possible.
Well done. Well done to you for doing your hobbies and passing your test.
Yay, thank you. And well done to you for all the other things we can't talk about, but I know have been happening in your life.
Busy.
Yes. So, Patreons.
Yes. So we should say to everybody, not just patrons, thank you for listening. You can check out the images that will be associated with this episode over at Instagram.com. Or in fact, you can just search for at d.s.radio. We'll be brought to homepage. If you're not already following us, you should be. And if you're feeling especially generous,
if you're spilling
especially generous.
First of all, Chris, that was a shit show. Instagram.com. The fuck is wrong with you? If you want to see the images that go along with this episode, go to Instagram d.s.radio. Okay, that's what he was trying to say.
Mm-hmm, which are hosted
he just turned
on
into
Instagram.
a pensioner suddenly.
You must log on to the internet. Make sure you connect to CompuServe. But if you are feeling especially generous, you can go over to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio. And we should say an extra special thanks to all of our CompuServe users over there connecting on 56k to AOL.com.
Guys, girls, and gibbons.
Guys, girls, and gibbons. All of them. All welcome. So thank you very much to Tony Taylor, Ethan Coughlin, Michael Cunliffe, A Hawk, Chris Lebowski, Beatrice, Ordained Sinister Minister, Graves, Riff Cult, Cropley Crab, Jason R. Nelson, Creepy Paper, Jamie Sook, Lindsay Keller, Mike Wright, Kelsey Carruthers, Linz Gibson, Drake Halvig, Michael M., Wesley Akers, Riaz, The Toxic Avenger, and Pip Marchie, and Philip Hoffman. I don't know why I put an and in the middle before then. Anyway.
Thank you, everyone. Keeping the lights on. Thank you. Chris.
Yes.
Tonight, we are going to revisit. Any guesses?
Oh, revisit.
We're going somewhere. Where are we going?
That's not Mouse Sugiyama again, is it? I'm not going to be served up a plate of cock.
No, that was probably your Thursday night.
Don't dox me. I don't know. Share. There's so many options.
We're going to revisit Hexham, the small market town in Northumberland, England. That was the backdrop to another case we covered in the early days of DSR, the cursed Hexham Heads. For those of you that have forgotten, Hexham is a small town that lies on the south bank of the River Tyne, and in 2001, it had a population of just under 11,000 people. For this episode, Chris, we are going to travel back to the 1950s to start off with. Specifically, 1957. So a little warning here. There is mention of harm and injury to children and death of a child. So if you want to skip that, skip like 5 minutes forward. So the story begins with a tragic incident on Sunday, May 5th, 1957. A woman, Miss Hilda Marjorie Wynne, who was a widow from the nearby town of Horsley, hit 3 children with her vehicle while driving dangerously along the A69 at Shafto Leazes. all 3 children died.
Jeez.
The story goes that Mrs. Wynne, who was a widow and a mother of 2 herself, had been suffering from depression and had taken a fistful of aspirin and epilepsy drugs with the intention of ending it all. Instead, she ended up in her car where she went on a drive and mowed down 3 children. The children were soon identified as sisters Jacqueline Pollock, aged 6, Joanna Mary Pollock, aged 11, and their friend Anthony Layden, who was 9. The girls were the daughters of a local milkman and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Pollock, who lived on a house on Leazes Crescent, and Anthony Layden was an only child and the son of a Mr. and Mrs. John Layden, who lived nearby. The children were on their way to church, walking hand in hand on the day they were struck by the car and killed. A local farmer who also witnessed the incident said that the car was going from one side of the road to the other at a varying speed of 25 to 30 miles an hour, and obviously the person in it was ill and not in control of the car. He said he followed the vehicle attempting to stop it and watched as it drove over the curb onto the sidewalk and struck all 3 children. He said when he approached the car, the driver appeared dazed and almost asleep. She asked him, "What's the matter? Did I hit someone?" She claimed to only have taken aspirin that day. She got something like 3 years probation and a several-year driving ban for her crime. So Chris, heavy part over.
Wow. Okay. I've never heard the phrase a fistful of aspirin medicine.
Yeah.
I don't really know what that would do to you. It would thin your blood out massively, though.
Thin your blood, yeah, and then the epilepsy drugs on top really did a number on her, and God knows what else. We don't really know the full scale of it, but she was deemed to not be in her right mind, and she also had some kind of high-up connections, apparently. So, yeah, she kind of got away with it, in a way. That's the setup for today's story, and we have a pic of the 2 girls here, Chris.
Okay, so we've got 2 girls here. They're both, say, this is 1950s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they're wearing kind of, I don't know, what would you call that? Sort of like gingham check style pinafores? Is that what you call them?
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. It's not my first time around the sun. And, they both look very, very happy. The older sister's standing and the younger sister seems to be sitting. They've both got big, lovely smiles on their faces. They both look very happy, and it's unfortunate they had their lives tragically cut short.
Yeah, I mean, what an awful way to go. And yeah, you'd never expect that, would you? Just absolutely terrible. So immediately after the girl's death, their father, John Pollock, started telling his wife and people in the area that they would be reborn or reincarnated. He told his wife Florence that she was going to give birth to them again.
Oh God, this is like Silent Hill. Silent Hexham.
He claimed to feel the presence of the girls around the house, mainly on the top floor. Not a floor they really spent much time in, but he claimed that he felt like they had not left. He didn't visit their graves or anything of the sort, and he just truly believed that they weren't really gone. A little about John. John Pollock was born in Bristol in the 1920s, and he was raised in the Church of England. He hopped around different churches when he hit his late teens, including a stint with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, before he finally settled on the Roman Catholic Church. He was with them for a while, but for some reason left in his late 40s or thereabouts. When he was a kid, he read a book by early science fiction writer Rider Haggard, where John was introduced to the idea of reincarnation, which is a theme that was mentioned throughout many of this writer's stories. John legitimately believed in reincarnation, which is against Catholicism. You either go to heaven or hell, no coming back. And this was obviously way before he grew up, got married and had kids, lost his daughters, etc., etc. He worked as a milkman, which was a decent enough job back in the day to support a wife and several kids. And he apparently liked to walk around in a 3-piece suit, looking all dapper. Some people said that he really wanted to be somebody. Florence helped him with his milkman business, and the pair had several children together, both sons and daughters. John tells Florence, right after the death of their two daughters, that she will rebirth them again. And she was like, no, that is not going to happen. We've just lost two. I am not having another child anytime soon. She was reportedly taking birth control to prevent any further pregnancies. But here I sit today, Chris, a living testament that birth control cannot stop us all.
Wow.
So Florence did not believe in reincarnation. She didn't believe in it at all. She grew up as a member of the Salvation Army, but she converted to Catholicism after meeting John, presumably to marry him. I don't know. She also left the church when he did later in life, so she was just kind of like a part-timer. She didn't really believe in anything. Probably God, but she didn't follow any religion strictly, and she definitely was not in on the reincarnation thing. So, before I carry on with the story, Chris, anything to say so far?
I mean, I think the loss of any child, let alone two of your children, is going to really deeply affect you. And I think there's a tremendous amount of couples that split up in the wake of such a awful thing, just because they can't kind of cope with the reminder of it every day. I think having another child, if that's the right decision for them. I mean, it wasn't obviously, but it seemed like it was for the husband. Okay. But I also think that maybe spouting that they're going to be reincarnated is perhaps not the healthiest way to go about dealing with this trauma.
Yeah, if I lost a child and a partner said to me that, oh, you're going to birth them again, I would honestly think they were having some kind of psychotic break. I would be very worried to hear something like that. Not long after the sister's death, Florence comes to John and she tells him that she's pregnant. John isn't surprised. He says it will be twins. Florence goes to get checked out at the local hospital, and they say, nope, it's just one child. So John's theory is debunked, right, Chris?
Yeah.
However, on October 4th, 1958, Florence gave birth. John was out on his milk round at the time, and when he came back, he entered the room to find Florence and two baby girls.
Oh.
He was the only one that was not shocked to see twins.
That is, I suppose this is the 50s, so they didn't have, I don't think, they didn't have sonograms and so on. Then,
well,
did they?
Okay, so they had ultrasound, but
ultrasound, that's what I mean.
Yeah. It wasn't in full effect until the late 70s or the early 80s. So it did exist, but apparently it just wasn't really widely available.
Yeah.
So the additional baby could have been missed depending on where it was positioned. So if it was behind the other baby, it would be quite hard to see even if they did use it. It just wasn't that good.
Yeah. Early days of medicine.
Yeah, it existed, but it wasn't great. So yeah, she had twins, which even by coincidence is kind of like, holy shit. Like, I would be taken aback. Like, the doctor's like, no, that's just one. And he's like, they're going to be born again. So you lose two kids, you have twins, and nobody expects it until they are birthed. Like, that is a pretty crazy guess. Like, he should have played the lottery or something.
Yeah. But they do say, though, that if you've had a set of twins before, your likelihood is higher of carrying them again.
The other girls weren't twins. There was actually a 5-year age gap. They were just sisters.
Of course. I just looked at a photograph of them. Duh.
Yeah, but apparently that's a myth too. Like, if there's there doesn't need to be twins in the family for you to have a higher chance of having twins. Apparently that's just a myth.
Oh, yeah. No, I was saying that I believe that if you personally have had a set of twins before, there is a higher chance of you having them again.
I'm not sure. But anyway, she had twins. So here's some twin facts for you. If fertility treatments are not involved, the chance of someone having twins is approximately 1 in 250 pregnancies. The chance of having identical twins is 0.4%. Identical twins come from one fertilized egg that splits into two embryos, and are genetically identical. Fraternal twins, which are non-identical twins, come when two eggs are released during one ovulation cycle and both are fertilized by a different sperm. So 1 in every 90 births, that's around 1.1%, are fraternal twins. And in 1960s England, the rate of twins was approximately 8.9 per 1,000 births. So the Pollock twisters were fraternal twins. They were not identical. And as far as I could tell from the information out there, yeah?
Sorry, you just called them the Pollock twisters.
Oh, shit.
Which was almost a Freudian slip.
The Pollock sisters were fraternal twins, so they were not identical. As far as I could tell from the information out there, Florence was apparently on birth control at the time and was not going through IVF treatment, of course, which apparently raises the chances of having twins. And she was in her early 20s. And all of these things kind of contribute or don't contribute. Either way, twins. What are you thinking so far?
It's a miracle.
A miracle.
We've got some...
The Pollock twisters.
We've got the Pollock twisters who've been born against all odds. They firstly they had to overcome birth control, then they had to overcome the fact that they were misdiagnosed as just being one. Yeah.
Okay, so the twins were named Jennifer and Gillian. They weren't identical, but they looked very alike. One of the first things that John noticed was that Jennifer had a birthmark that matched up with one of Jacqueline, the deceased sister's, scars, which she got from falling on a bucket. It was on her forehead between her eyebrows. So I'm going to send you some visual evidence of this, Chris, and I need you to describe it to the listeners. So this pic is from when they were a little older.
So we've got a picture of Jennifer Pollock when she was 20 years old, and there's a giant arrow on her head, which isn't the birthmark, but it's supposedly pointing to the birthmark, which is, if you will, if you're looking at a picture, the way that we look at it, it's on her left-hand side. It's between her nose and the start of her eyebrow. It's not, you can't really see it in this picture, if I'm honest, but we'll go with it. We'll go with it.
It's an arrow pointing at nothingness, but it's also black and white, which doesn't help us distinguish any sort of discoloration, but that's what we...
And then there's an accompanying sketch, which is of Jacqueline Pollock, one of the girls who unfortunately died, which is showing a scar in exactly the same area. This is a sketch, though, and it is a very poor sketch that has been done. It does make her look like she might be half
a gibbon.
I was going to say pig, but gibbon, go on then. But obviously, the person does know how to draw noses. It is quite a crude drawing, but nevertheless, the scar is in the same place as with Jennifer.
Yes. So Jennifer also had a birthmark on the left side of her hip, which matched up to a birthmark that Jacqueline also had. And Chris, we have another picture. Do not fear. Here it comes. If you could just describe this to the listeners as well.
Okay, so we have got here a picture of Jennifer. She's hiking up her shirt, which is also a gingham check.
Yeah, good eye.
Yeah, and we can see kind of her exposed hip here, and there is a roundish area of hyperpigmentation, around 1 centimeter in diameter. Apparently, you can definitely see more on this image that yes, there is definitely a bit of discoloration there, but again, we are dealing with a black and white image that isn't particularly high quality, but you more than the previous image, you can tell there's something there.
Yep. So Gillian didn't have any scars, and this is what helped John and Florence work out which child had been reincarnated as a witch. So they came to the conclusion that Jennifer was Jacqueline and Gillian was Joanna. How else did we know? Well, when Jennifer wrote with a pen or pencil, she held it in her fist, something that Jacqueline had also done. Gillian walked like a little penguin, with her feet pointing outwards, just like Joanna had. Chris, evidence so far: birthmarks, gaits, pen holding. Convinced?
No, not really.
But come on, the twins, having birth to twins, pretty coincidental. And birthmarks, that's pretty good.
I mean, this is all pretty, unique,
Mm-hmm.
all of this, but I can't help but feel that it's slightly impacted by the whole sort of, I wouldn't say miraculous conception, but it's about the closest that you can get to that. The fact that there was, they lost two girls, now they've had two girls born. The scars thing, if true, is pretty weird.
Kind of cool.
But the problem is that we've got no way of showing that. There's no pictures of the girls who passed away.
There is pics, but they just kind of suck.
Yeah, but they don't show these scars. I mean, you think the facial scar would be easier, but certainly the image that you provided of the girls who passed away earlier, they're not good enough to see the scars on. The gait thing is a bit weird, but I suppose you could also go down to family traits.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I had a friend who slept in a certain way. Like, he would always take a nap and he put his arm over his eyes every time and lay straight on his back, kind of like a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And his grandma did exactly the same thing. It was weird.
Yeah. It's like, are these nature or are they nurture? Are they learned behaviors? It's a bit weird.
Yeah. Well, you're not convinced, but John was. In fact, he was so convinced that he didn't really appear to grieve the loss of his daughters as much as Florence did, because he supposedly really did believe that they had been reincarnated. He also, I read somewhere, he felt a bit guilty because he initially thought that his two daughters had died to demonstrate that reincarnation was real, but he didn't visit their graves or anything. That's how much he believed that they weren't really dead. He just barely grieved and he didn't visit their gravesites. He was staunch in this. So, more evidence. So, when the twins were 3 months old, the whole Pollock family packed up and moved around 30 miles away to... Any guesses?
Ooh. Tynemouth.
Whitley Bay.
No.
Yes.
Our old stomping ground.
Whitley Bay, Chris, we know it well. One of the many towns along our coastline that we do like to frequent.
Yes, it's a lovely place. But now it's being inhabited by some Hexham demon children.
It is really weird to think that these creepy reincarnated kids were going to the same places that we have probably been 1,000 times. It's so strange. Like, I didn't think the story would go there. I was like, Hexham, close enough, nice. And then I saw Whitley Bay and I was like, what? We spent so much time there over the years. Apparently, John and Florence owned a greengrocer's in Whitley Bay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I know. I tried to find out which one. I couldn't find anything. But I suppose that they do just pop up, don't they?
Yeah, it's always certainly not there anymore.
Yeah, but imagine. There's like one prominent one I can think of in the main street. Imagine it was that.
Maybe.
But they pop up in so many different places. Also, if any listeners are planning on travelling to England or Scotland in the summer, don't skip the northeast coastline. It is really nice. And you might find a Hexham head or a possessed demon twin. So anyway, although technically born in Hexham, they all moved to Whitley Bay pretty quickly. And they didn't visit Hexham again until the girls were around 4 years old. So about this visit, keeping in mind they had no memory of Hexham, they apparently appeared very familiar with places they had never visited. For example, the girls pointed at a school building and said, "That's our school." It was in fact not their school, but it was the school that their deceased sisters had attended when they were alive. They also asked to play in a park that they had never been to, and they had no visuals on at the time. They just said, like, over that hill, I want to play in that park. I want to go on the swings. They couldn't see it, they just knew it was there. Apparently they identified their old house too, according to their parents. Mostly according to John.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive you girls past his house and I'm gonna wind down the window and go, "Oh, what do you think that is? What that is, girls? Oh, what do you think that house is? What is that house? Oh, it's where we used to live. Oh, you little reincarnated beauties."
Are you saying you were suggesting things and implanting memories, Chris, for his own?
I feel he may have been leading the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. So later, back in Whitley Bay, when the Pollocks were unpacking some of their old things, they found 2 dolls belonging to the deceased sisters. Both Jennifer and Gillian grabbed one each. The girls referred to the dolls as Mary and Susan, which were apparently the names given to the dolls by, you guessed it, and they both recalled that these gifts were from Santa.
Okay.
Convincing?
Well, I mean, we've investigated Santa Claus many times. We know he is real, kids. This is the most convincing element of this thus far.
But what do you think about them apparently knowing the names that their deceased sisters had given to the dolls and just blurting it out?
I mean, again, big if true. But there's if you call me Scully on this, there's very little way to corroborate this unless this was filmed and verified the first time that they'd seen these things. And why would it be? You know, for all we know, they had little name tags sewn onto them.
Well, okay, disbeliever. What about if they were from Santa? Does that mean nothing to you? They're from Santa?
I mean,
how could they know?
How could they know what Santa Claus
from
is?
Santa. that the dolls came from Santa. That they weren't birthday gifts.
I mean, these are like 4-year-old kids at this point, right?
Yes, around about.
I mean, my 3-year-old attributes everything to Santa Claus and talks about him constantly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, this was from Santa Claus. He said it today. He's like, oh, I got this one from Santa. So yeah, no, you did. You did. He brought it for you.
All right, fine. How about this? The girls liked the same foods as their deceased sisters. The same foods, Chris.
I mean, again, these can be put down to family traits, whether they are nature or nurture. You know, a lot of the time you'll find that members of the family will eat the same things purely because that's what they're served. Unless you're going to tell me that it was like something bizarre, like, oh yeah, they liked, you know, black bullets, blancmange, and fried eggs. Like,
you mean like Jesmond black bullets?
Yeah.
Where did you pull that from?
I was trying to think of like an old timey sweet, and it was either that or cinder toffee.
Oh my God, cinder toffee.
Oh, that's a one-way ticket to a dentist, cinder coffee.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, try this on for size, Chris. Another thing they used to do was role play the car crash, apparently. This was when they were around 4 years old. They were playing one day and began reenacting a car accident. One of them would lay on the ground pretending they had been struck by a vehicle, and the other would describe their wounds, saying things like, "That's where the car hit you," or "There's blood coming out of your eyes."
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Would that not be the creepiest thing in the, like, imagine babysitting those kids and witnessing that? Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but that is terrifying. That's like a horror movie trope. And not to get into gory details because, you know, there was real deaths in this case, as we discussed at the beginning, but apparently the role play injuries did correspond with the IRL ones. Enough said on that. Okay, so there was other incidents that are noted as, you know, potential evidence of reincarnation. One of these incidents is listed as the girls were able to identify a smock as their mother's dress she wore when she helped her father on the milk round. And they weren't born at this point.
Did it say like milk Mother. Lady or here comes the milk?
Mommy Milkers on it.
Milkers.
We are horrible people. No, it was just a smock, Chris. To answer your question.
I mean, if you think about, you know, your image of your typical like woman who milks cows, she's probably wearing a gingham check smock with a pinny over the top of it, and she's got you know, blonde hair in plaits and some sort of little sort of doily number on the top of the head.
I don't think that was the milkman smock in that case, Chris. Anyway, moving on. That example doesn't move you in any way? Doesn't convince you?
It's definitely creepy. It is definitely creepy. I will give them that.
The smock.
Well, more of a reenacting
The
of
car crash.
the car
Yeah.
crash. The
The role
smock,
play.
again,
I mean, if you see a smock or a dress, you might point at it and go, that's mommy's dress, right? I mean, it's not daddy's dress, I don't think.
yeah, like, like, again, using my example, my son, like, the other day, we were walking through somewhere, he was like, oh, mummy used to work here. And I was like,
Huh?
no, she didn't. Definitely did not used to work here.
Did he really say that? That's really
Yeah.
creepy. Do they just say things like that all the time?
Yeah, kids come out with stuff, and it's like, sometimes it could be informed by other things. I mean, in this case, we'd been plus somewhere my wife did used to work earlier in the day, and he was repeating it again later on. So that one, I could kind of understand why, but kids say the darndest things.
So you're saying your child is reincarnated, is what I'm hearing.
What, of my wife who's still alive?
Of someone who knew your wife who is no longer alive.
I'm trying to think who that might be, but no, probably not.
You don't know everyone in the world, Chris.
Yes, I do. There's Jeff. There's the other Jeff. And there's Jeff with a J. Jeff Hardy.
There's Geoff.
There's Hefe.
Okay, I've got another example for you. So, Joanna and Jacqueline, when they were alive, they liked combing people's hair, especially their dad's hair.
Okay.
So Jennifer and Gillian, come on, join the dots. They like to brush people's hair, including their dads.
Right.
Reincarnation?
I mean, the dad could have just been like, girls, brush my hair. Like...
To be honest, I remember doing the same, like putting my dad's hair in pigtails and putting like sparkly clips. I mean, that was last week, but...
Pretty common trope, right?
No, seriously though, like, yeah, that's just a thing, right? Isn't that a thing you do if you're a little girl to your dad, or what you do his hair and put pigtails? But okay, so not convinced. Joanna, when she was alive, this is creepy. Joanna used to say, this is according to John, I will never grow up to be a lady, which apparently people who look into this case take to be a premonition. I will never grow up to be a lady. Okay.
Don't lots of tomboys say that?
By the way, at this point, Jennifer and Gillian had never been told about their deceased sisters, and they'd never seen pics of them, and their parents had never talked to them about it. They knew nothing of it. They didn't even know they had sisters who passed away.
Again, if that's true, that certainly adds a whole area context to everything that you've been telling us about. Definitely.
Yeah.
But I do...
I have a hard time believing that, do you? That, like, such a big story, because it gripped all of Hexham and surrounding places. Like,
I mean, certainly when the kids were young enough, they probably wouldn't, certainly before school and stuff like that. And I get that. I mean, it really depends on if the parents went to the length of trying to, like, erase the children from their lives, taking down all pictures, any mementos, anything along those lines.
They did, apparently, but like I also thought about this too, and it's like they had older siblings as well. They had like brothers, I think, in the house. So they had older siblings who might have... I feel like your sibling would kind of bring that up. Maybe not when you're 4, I don't know, but...
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they could have heard them talking about it, or did they just never speak of them again?
I mean...
Sort of thing.
People cope in different ways. You've got to make a pretty big assumption that they wouldn't know. I think who knows what people who've been through this kind of trauma would do and feel. So I think, it's valid if that's how they wanted to do things. But as you say, it does seem a bit, it's an extreme step to take.
Yeah, exactly. So there is not a lot of footage out there, but there is a very small segment about the twins. And if you could just click the link that I sent you, Chris, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Sure, and we'll have a watch of it now.
We will see John himself and Florence speaking about it.
But John Pollock did not despair while Hexham grieved. He believed that his wife would conceive twins, that the girls would be reborn.
From the moment I knew she was pregnant, I believed that the girls would come back.
And against all the doctor's predictions, Florence Pollock did produce twin girls.
The first thing I noticed when I saw those twins was, we hadn't named them then, but the younger one of the two had a scar coming across her forehead down onto the bridge of her nose, which was the identical scar that Jacqueline, the younger one of the girls that had been killed, had when she fell off a little tricycle when she was about 2 years old. Also, I didn't see at the time, but later, my wife said to me, it's an incredible thing, but she's also got the birthmark on her left hip that Jacqueline had. Jacqueline had a birthmark on her left hip, which was like a brown thumbprint.
To this day, Jennifer still has that brown birthmark. Mrs. Pollock was astonished when she gave the twins the dead girls' dolls.
When I got these two dolls out, one said, oh, that's Mary, and that's Susan. And it was exactly the same names as my other daughters had named them. And that was the sort of really turning point in my way of thinking.
The family had moved away after the tragedy, but on their first visit to Hexham, the twins seemed to remember the landmarks.
Well, when we came at the top of Battle Hill, they came over the brow, approaching St Mary's Church, which they couldn't see. One turned to the other and said, well, the school's around here, which we used to go to, and the playground's round the back. Now, they couldn't possibly have seen any sign of a school or a church even. I mean, they were so small they couldn't even have seen over the wall. And sure enough, I mean, the school is round the corner. And this was the most incredible thing. And we continued to walk on. I mean, we were absolutely amazed at this. And as we came past the church, on the opposite side of the road is Hexham Abbey and the Abbey grounds. And one turned and said, oh, the playground's over there.
And she was right. The playground was over there, but they couldn't see it from where they were standing because the brow of the hill was in the way. So convinced were the Pollocks that their daughters had been reborn, that even the children's grave no longer held any sorrow for them.
There's a grave there, but it means nothing. To me, to bring flowers or anything on the grave would be sheer hypocrisy, because I don't believe that they're here. I mean, it's just a symbol of two girls that lived that were reborn.
Okay. Interesting. So, basically, very well-spoken and sort of learned man, as you say, not... Perhaps this tells you more about me than anything else, but not what I would have expected a milkman in the Northeast to sound like. But he makes his case very eloquently that these children are reincarnation. It makes sense now. He said at the end of that clip that the graves hold no meaning because the children are reborn. They're not dead. They're still with us. So perhaps they would have taken away pictures or mementos, things like that. But I'm kind of inferring that here. But it still doesn't completely convince me. But the parents are both obviously very, very convinced that they are reincarnations.
Yeah, it's strange to see him just walk by the grave and be like, oh yeah, that's just a rock to me. Do you know what I mean? He really is staunch in that belief. Florence did become convinced after the whole doll thing. But like you said, unless there was a camera there at the exact time, what is the verification for this? That they said it?
Yeah.
It's very hard to verify, which is why... Enter Dr. Ian Stevenson. Stevenson was born in 1918 in Montreal, Canada, and he was chair of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Virginia. Now, he was a medical doctor and a psychiatrist. However, he had a deep interest in reincarnation, and this kind of got him laughed at. He was sort of a joke amongst the scientific community. So when I say he was interested in it, I mean he investigated a whopping 2,500 cases of reincarnation and past lives, mostly of children, usually no older than 6. And he dedicated 4 decades of his life to this study. So he spent a lot of time initially in Asia Africa, and South America documenting these cases. There's a lot more cases of quote-unquote reincarnation in Asia and Africa.
Mm-hmm.
In England, it's not something people really believe in. Like, some people do. They like the idea of it. But I guess when it comes to like Buddhism and stuff, reincarnation is a way bigger idea that people accept.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine how many cases there was over there. And he did debunk a lot of them, actually, in all fairness. But he tried to document each case in a way that it could be measured. And he had a criteria and a model for that. So each case would need to check off the following boxes. So the child would need to have knowledge of things that they should not or could not know. But like we said, Chris, it's a bit hard to verify it. Like, when the verification is John Pollock said so, I wouldn't really call it like verifiable information.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's easy to be convinced of something if you've seen it with your own eyes, but it's very difficult to prove any of these things actually happened.
Exactly. So that was one box that you had to tick. So if they were considered to be a reincarnation of a previously existing person who had died, they may know things about this person's life that could be verified, quote unquote, officially to be true. This information would be things like the child acts like the person they were a reincarnation of, for example. Maybe they have a similar way of doing things, share personality traits, have similar fears, have birthmarks or defects that appear to link with how the person who died. Like we talked about in the Om Seti episode, when we talked about birthmarks. Some people believe that a birthmark is a sign of how you were mortally wounded. And we did talk. Where was your birthmark again? You had a secret birthmark. Is it the back?
I've got one on the top of my shoulder, which could have been
top of your shoulder.
Well, sort of the shoulder blade, if you will, which could have been a way to get stuck with a knife.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, we talked about that. So this guy, Dr. Stevenson, he also thought it was important to have both the families of the child he was studying, as well as the family of the persons supposedly reincarnated to verify these accounts, which in the case of the Pollock twins was just John and Florence, because it was their daughters and then their daughters again. So kind of limits the pool in a way. Stevenson authored multiple books and papers on these cases, and he could be an entire episode in himself. So go check him out at your leisure, because I skimmed through one of the books and I was like, okay, to me it was, I don't want to be mean, it was kind of basic. I wouldn't call it scientific, really. No, I mean, like, how you expect to open a scientific book on something and you go, reincarnation, that's a bit silly. But maybe he's got a process that's going to really impress me. He did do the things that were scientific that he did do were like blood tests and stuff to verify what type of twins they were. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, does that matter? No.
Yeah, that doesn't impact anything. It's not like if there's a certain type of twins, it means you're reincarnated.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, that's nice, and scientific, but how does that help us believe in reincarnation? Anyways, multiple books and papers, go check this out if you want to. But he got majorly interested in the Pollock twins because, first of all, it checked all the boxes. And secondly, it was a case in England, and English was his first language. So we didn't need a translator like he did in all the other cases, because apparently he had so many translation issues that it actually caused problems getting published, like his works published, because people were like, So he visited John so many times over the years and the twins in person while they were in Whitley Bay, which I just find amazing. Like, there's a description of him rocking up on the metro at Whitley Bay Station.
No.
Which I just love the idea of. Yeah, so he would have walked through streets that we have walked through many times, Chris. He confirmed that the scars and the birthmarks were actually there, although they were faint. And he thought that he had verified statements that the twins made, although you and I do not agree. And I'm sure a lot of people would be like, well, how do you verify something that the guy who really is lobbying for reincarnation would say? So let's take a look at a couple of pics of the twins in Whitley Bay. I tried to work out where this was. but I couldn't. Maybe you can, Chris, because you're more of an old hand there than I am.
Let's.
Yeah, they come. There's not much to go on, but kind of cool. And I love their little coats. They have matching coats.
They've got very, very adorable little sort of peacock coats. Like you say,
The houses are very Whitley Bay, aren't they? But I don't know.
Yeah, they're terraced houses.
There's a sign in the background of one of them, but it's just impossible.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, there's no way you could work that out, I don't think, unless you were cross-referencing with...
Maybe Geo Wizard could, that YouTuber Geo Wizard. I should send it to him and be like, which street is this?
Maybe.
It's so interesting to see pictures of the local area though. Okay, so like we said, the thing about statements is the girls eventually grew up and they didn't recall much of their childhood, what they said and what they did. This is part of the reason Dr. Stevenson worked with children. Because once teenagers are adults, people have a really hard time recalling what they did on a random Tuesday when they were 3 years old. So John and Florence were the ones relaying the info to the doctor, and there's a chart in his book where each piece of information is listed along with verification method, which is obviously John, Florence, or both. So essentially, whatever, right? They could just say things. John could maybe imply things. Who knows? Don't want to accuse him of anything. So Florence died in her late 50s, and John quickly remarried, within a year. He started a whole new family. He sold the family home. He booted out grandma, who had helped raise all their kids, and he started over. The Pollock family grew apart pretty quickly, and John's sons borderline hated him from then onwards. Stevenson continued to come over and visit him over the years with his new family and everything. And John continued lobbying for this whole reincarnation thing. He underwent hypnosis where he claimed to recall a past life of his own. He came up with a story about how he was some kind of doctor, I think. I don't really remember, but apparently he murdered and buried a wife or a lover. And although the name was actually someone from history, the story did not match at all. And Dr. Stevenson, he didn't believe in hypnosis, so he did not include it, which is another problem, I suppose, with his works. An interesting thing that I did read was some parents who lose a child, they may project traits of their previous children onto a new child, and it's this phenomenon known as replacement child syndrome, and it happens due to grief and the need for continuity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not out of the realm of possibility that that kind of thing was happening. It's the only thing that kind of makes sense. But it honestly is such a crazy coincidence that they lost 2 daughters and then had 2 twin girls.
Yeah, that it is very odd.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing of this story is that. And the fact that he was saying that before she had the twins, either it's just a really big coincidence, wishful thinking, oh, I've lost 2. I really hope that we have 2 more and I'd love to see them again. And then coincidentally, his wife has twins. That's the biggest sort of wow factor of the story.
It is.
The rest of it.
It is. But putting a skeptic's hat on, what evidence do we have that John actually said this and didn't retrospectively do it?
Yeah, well, apparently he did say it to, like you said, did he say it to anyone? That's the thing, right? If you take that away, she just had twins and it was a big coincidence. And then maybe he thought, oh, imagine I just say that. I knew they were coming back. But that's the most shocking aspect of the whole story. Even if he didn't say it, it's a big coincidence. Lose 2, gain 2 in one shot. That is so interesting. But honestly, the scars and the birthmarks, I feel like a lot of kids have a head scar. I have one. You've probably noticed it. I don't know if you have. I have 2 scars on my head.
I've never seen your head.
Yes, you have. The one I have one in between my eyebrows, but I don't know how much it stands out. And I have one on my head. Yeah, probably the part of my head that you've never seen.
Under the fringe.
Yeah.
You've got a 5 head under there.
I'm just intelligent, Chris. 99%. There's got to be some sacrifices.
Oh.
But yeah, it's a common place to have a scar, right?
It is. Especially if you consider things like, forceps and things that are used for assisted births. I'm not saying that they were used here, but...
What do you think they did? Just went in and, crane clamped.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah, but like not to the point of scarring in between the eyeballs.
I mean, yeah, they do.
Babies are all squishy. They just sort of like bounce back out.
Yeah, well, they do get scars though. I mean, they disappear usually, but if one was between the eyes, it would have been quite a bad miss. So it could have just like it could have been the same doctor, just like, oh, I've done it again. Maybe that was his. Maybe that was his calling card. He was like, every single one. I don't know why he's German and in Newcastle, but hey, every single one of the babies I deliver will have the scar. They will have the scar. They have the scar, and every time I see him, I'll go, you're one of mine.
That would actually be hilarious. I have so many scars though from childhood, so I don't know. I feel they're in common places: head, knee,
shoulders and toes.
Oh God. You've just broken a memory of when I got punished in German class and I had to sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes in German. So embarrassing. But yeah, to wrap this up here, sorry. There's an excellent BBC podcast about this case called Extrasensory, which everyone should check out. And it does have interviews with living relatives. And let's just say they all have very different things to say about John and who he was as a person. But I won't spoil that. I didn't want to just rip all of their stuff and include it in here, so go listen to that. It's really worth it. I think it's like 7 parts.
Interesting.
But you get a lot more info about this story, so if there's any blanks that you wanted filling in, you'd probably find them on that podcast, the BBC podcast.
Well, I shall go and listen to them.
It's good.
What did you say it was called?
Extrasensory.
Extrasensory.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on I listened to it on Spotify, but it's on everything, I think. And it's very good because it's got, it's like that one we listened to one time. What was it, Chris? About was it a Welsh haunted something? That was great.
Yeah, it's similar.
It's in the style of that. Uncanny. Is that uncanny?
Uncanny, yeah. It was before they got a television series that did that with that, I do believe.
I didn't even know they had a TV series. But yeah, it's in the vein of that and it's very good. And they do a lot of good work in tracking people down.
Apple TV Plus, apparently.
Yeah, I listened on Spotify, so I think it's pretty much available everywhere if it's on Spotify too. But yeah, that's the story of the Pollock twins. And this also, I must point out, when you Google this case, a picture of 2 girls with black bobbed hair and black dresses comes up. That is not them. And I don't know why that picture is used on basically everything. It's the first thing that comes up. I don't know why. That's just a pic by some photographer. Maybe it just looked more creepy than the little blonde girls. I don't know, but that's not them. So just look on Google and scroll down a bit in images and you'll see the actual kids. They're blonde. But yeah, that's the story of the Pollock twins. And that's one of the biggest sort of reincarnation cases out there in the Fortean field. Yeah. And yeah, the Whitley Bay link really threw me off.
My thoughts are it's probably likely John.
Yeah.
Is projecting this onto his. I do have a few sort of follow-up questions, which I don't know if you can.
Okay, I'll try.
Answer. Mainly, it's what happened to the girls? Are they still alive?
Don't want to spoil the BBC thing, so just stop listening now if you don't want any spoilers. But one is alive and one is deceased.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there is an interview with the living twin, so you do get a lot more answers.
I'm excited to go and listen to it.
You definitely should.
I was doing a little bit of searching on the topic while we were talking, and I just found here, did you know Salvador Dali was raised to believe that he was the reincarnation of his dead older brother?
I did know that. I think a couple of artists were actually.
Yeah, who was also named Salvador.
Yeah, that happened a lot though, right? A family would lose a child and then they would name the next child the same name.
Yeah.
I suppose it's just maybe it's nicer to believe that or something. I don't know. We've lost one.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I guess it leaves such a big void that you just want to fill it with new life. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you lose a pet, you don't wait too long before you get another pet. At least I didn't, because I just felt so devastated. It was really hard to handle, just an empty, the house is more empty, So you're just oh, I need some new life in this place. And yeah, it's just kind of something people do. Not always.
I mean, no, but it does make sense. But there is, and I don't mean this in any way about pets, because pets are a large part of the family, but there is a difference between two girls and a pet. They're not quite as easy to replace. You can't pop out to the shops and get...
When you've had an animal for like 10 to 15 years, it's extremely difficult to replace. You'll never replace anyone or...
That's what I'm saying. It's not...
Yeah.
I don't mean replacing it, but literally replace it. Like, you can pop out to the shops, buy a pet. It's a little bit different in terms of the lengths that you go to. Nobody bats an eyelid if you are saying, if you say, well, I got another pet because well, basically what you've just said, I needed to replace that void that was left in my life. But if you opened that up about having a child and being like, oh, hey, yeah, well, we're having another child because we've just got a void in our lives, it's like immediately a lot more creepy and weird if you say that.
Yeah, I don't know. It is I don't think they said it like that, or I don't think anyone probably says it out loud, but yeah, I guess that's...
It sounds like John said it out loud to his wife.
No.
She wasn't here for it, but he definitely said it to her.
He was like, oh no, they're coming back, like I think that would scare me more than anything if my husband was like, they are coming back, and I'm like, are you okay? Like, I don't know, I think that's the sort of most unsettling part, was that he just didn't grieve and really, really believed that, like, yeah, they'll be back, and they, she had to, like, they weren't back, obviously, two different kids, but like, what a coincidence. I mean, like you said, if he really did say that. But apparently he had his like office upstairs where he would like smoke cigars, drink scotch, listen to records, and he apparently had all of these books on like the occult, spiritualism. Someone mentioned like autopsies, like just books on sort of all nature of like oddities and strange macabre things. And don't say it's like my office, because I know it is. But this story isn't about me replacing children.
Pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah,
no,
but it's...
The thing is, like, if a lot of the times, when we investigate these cases, and I say investigate in inverted commas.
Yeah, I was going to say very loosely.
When we discuss these cases, a lot of the time, things that we put weight into is if people don't have a history of prior knowledge of a subject.
Mm-hmm.
When something happens. So what I mean by this is, when we investigated that Ilkley alien one, which was, ridiculous, but the one bit of evidence that kind of stood out as more, gave it a little bit of weight, was that it was a policeman or an ex-policeman talking about it who had no prior interest in aliens, the occult, or anything
so
along
they
those lines.
say.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a policeman's never lied.
No, but you got it would have been different if he'd been a policeman who was also a UFO investigator.
What a combo! Tale as old as time.
if you get somebody who's already interested in a particular subject and then miraculously it happens to them, that's creating your own destiny in that kind of thing. If you are an avid ghost hunter, and then you go somewhere and then miraculously you find a ghost, well, you're going to need some pretty strong evidence to show that is a ghost, opposed to just, a bit of crackling on a tape or something like that. Like, you know what I'm trying to get at here? He was very much trying to create this narrative.
He was lobbying, wasn't he?
He was lobbying hard, and he may well have influenced his own children in regards to that. And I'm sure that the grief of losing your own children will do insane things, and any parent who has unfortunately lost a child would do anything to have them back. But he's definitely projecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting case. Once again, when we really look into it, I'm like, yeah, that's just a bunch of coincidences, and it doesn't really prove anything. Which is happening so much. I did get some DMs. Remember when we did the a couple of episodes ago, we did the was it the Amherst haunting? And I said the more haunted houses we do, the less I believe in ghosts. And someone actually messaged me and was like, "Oh, I feel so sad that you don't believe in ghosts anymore because you've looked into it too much." But I feel like it's the same with the Pollock twins case. Like, There's another reincarnation case that I wanted to do, but I chose this one because I was like, this is a big coincidence. But I'm not believing it, Chris. I'm not believing in reincarnation. No.
It's a very interesting story.
It is. It really is. I really like the story, but yeah, I'm not convinced.
The Hexham heads was more believable. And that's saying something.
They're out there somewhere. We don't know where they are. They're floating around somewhere in the northeast, probably. Hexham
Were
heads.
there 2 Hexham heads as well, or were there more?
There was just 2, but I think there was some, wasn't there a woman who collected strange cursed objects, and there was a fake one, or I don't know. There's just 2 though. There's officially 2 Hexham heads out there somewhere, probably in the northeast.
2 Hexham heads, 2 reincarnations.
A lot of things happening in Hexham.
Oh. Yeah, a lot of things are happening in stereo in Hexham.
I see what you're saying. 2 Hexham heads. Oh, all right. There might be a bigger picture here that we haven't quite figured out.
Well, Linz, thank you very much for educating us all about this Hexham reincarnation bullshittery. It's been very, very enlightening.
A great roundup of my hours of research, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yes, not a problem.
Thanks for listening.
As we always say, we want to believe. We just really, really struggling to be convinced.
Yeah, more and more every week. But thanks so much for listening to the story. And it's a little bit of local history as well, which I hope anyone listening in the Northeast right now will appreciate. Next time you go to the beach in Whitley Bay, just know the Pollocks were there.
Not the fish.
Well, probably the fish too. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.